Let your light shine from the lighthouse. Let it shine, 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 shine. Let your light from the lighthouse. Let it shine, shine on me. Into love we go deeper, deeper and deeper every day. Into love we go deeper, deeper and deeper every day. The ocean of love, it's an endless shore. Ocean forever, forevermore. Let your light from the lighthouse shine, shine, shine on me. Let your light from the lighthouse shine, shine, shine on me. Into love we go deeper, deeper and deeper every day. Into love we go deeper, deeper and deeper every day. Ad infinitum. So the meditation now is just keep humming. Namaste, namaste. Everybody, here we are on this beautiful day. Just feel the love flowing through you, shining, shining in your heart. Just making up words as I'm singing. You can make up your own as we're singing. With any melody, just as long as it goes with the chords. And even if it doesn't, you might be a genius, singing something wondrous and profound. Well, into love we go deeper, deeper and deeper every day. Into love we go deeper, deeper and deeper every day. Namaste, namaste. So, I thought we'd talk about anti-aging technologies. They're coming into vogue. Matter of fact, they've been around for a while. But with the asymptote of, it's like the amazing speed of technology, sort of like everything's amplifying, and it's like, wow. According to a friend of mine who's a good friend of Dr. David Sinclair, who's the Harvard Medical School scientist who's maybe one of the foremost dudes on anti-aging, they're talking about that there's going to be like a pill. In other words, some combination of all the ingenious technologies that they've come up with in a couple of years. I think they already have this stuff, but it takes 2 years for trials and whatever it takes to, make it all legal. So that's pretty good news. What I'm just noticing from a meditative point of view is that it seems to be parallel tracking the discontinuity between technology and the biosphere, meaning like we need to make ourselves learn how to live longer so we can help the planet live longer, right? We can make the biodiversity exist longer and in balance. So, right, all of these things kind of parallel track. So, if you look at the situation now, the obvious observation is that our technology is not compatible with the biosphere, and we're heading towards some sort of, it's not necessarily a moment, but it's like it's a reckoning, right? We're moving into the future that, we may have seen the halcyon days, us boomers that have been around since the late 50s, we got to see the 60s, the 70s. It got a little weirder in the 80s and 90s and, ever since. And personally, not so sure it's going to get any less weird for a while. But the good news is while things fall apart, right, something else is rebirthing, right? In the death of the caterpillar, in the death of sort of the oil structures of the universe, the great, the way the economy runs now, hopefully free enterprise will prevail, but a lot of the toxic elements will break up, and sort of the imaginal butterflies of the future will emerge. So I think overall it's good. But like any healing crisis, it's not necessarily pleasant. Just take, for example, if you personally are having a healing crisis of some sort, who knows, there might be a die-off of billions of cells, or, all sorts of things are transacting in your body. There's pockets of pH that are very low that generating dis-ease, right? And in the same way this world, right? There's pockets of dis-ease everywhere. But overall, the healing crisis indicates micro, macro, that if we're going through this healing crisis, the world is going through this healing crisis, right? Micro, macro, as we fix one, we fix the other. So I've been looking into some of the different anti-aging technologies that already exist, or at least the flow of the research, where it's headed. I thought I'd just kind of give you a little overview, just some of what I've come up with. this is more, I'm talking about the scientific research stuff, not everything that makes us young, which would be like laughter, joy, meditation, singing, right? We've talked about all that good stuff. But from the point of view of like what's going on in the lab, essentially, well, I'll start with Dr. David Sinclair. He's discovered, maybe that's what they're doing, discovered a phenomenon, sirtuins, I believe they're called, SIRTUINS, which play a huge role in energy metabolism, in cellular regeneration. It's kind of, you were getting into the matrix of what makes a cell work. There's a phenomenon called autophagy, right, where cells go through all sorts of metamorphoses to sort of clean themselves up and fix themselves. And they're doing a lot of research with, there's a compound called NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. I won't get too technical, but basically there's a few of these molecules, nicotinic acid, NAM, nicotinamide, nicotine riboside. They found the molecules, right? They're onto this stuff. Matter of fact, you can order stuff with this stuff in it. I take an NAD product. There's a bunch of them out there. This is the beginning of what they're doing, right? With this molecule, it's something you can ingest at this point in time. Let's say some of the other, research involves the epigenetic clock. In other words, how your body can actually measure itself through methylation patterns, meaning the way that we are in, what's the word I'm looking for? When we create a lot of exhaust, we get exhausted, right? And that product is a methylation issue, right? So if you're methylating correctly, you're not going to create lots of exhaust, right? So there's ways to work with that. If you have methylation issues, I want to get into that now. I'll just give you some of the lists, just so you can see like the large picture without sort of overly involving in each one. The role of nutrient sensing pathways. The body is really smart, and it's like we can make it smarter. The role of trace minerals and trace elements like selenium in longevity. What the genetic basis for disease is, right? We can turn on and off genes with our voice, with strong emotion, with certain actions. So we're already clearing ancestral trauma, right? It's kind of what we do here. And that is a whole science unto itself in terms of how that they study epigenetics and doing that kind of thing in the lab. I think that kind of thing is better done mind over matter and prayer-based technologies of the telepathic, but that gets more electromagnetic, which is going to be part of why we survive. The really interesting one that you can immediately put into effect would be the effects of fasting and caloric restriction. In other words, how we eat, how we fast, right, allows the body to clean itself, which is what we were talking a little bit last time about. The Japanese recommend only filling your stomach 80% so that it actually has a chance to process, doesn't get too jammed up and start fermenting. And then in India, it's like one third, right? The air, the food, and the water. Right, so if we do that right, it's like your body can run really clean. Let's see, some of these other things here. of course they're studying like worms and how to make worms live longer, and there's people making a lot of progress with that. People study centenarians, like people already 100 years old, what makes them 100 years old. Blue zones, areas where people happen to live longer. I mean, I was watching some of this 100-meter women's track the other day, and it's like they've got 3 or 4 Jamaicans in the heats, in the finals, right? Evidently, there's minerals in Jamaica, that in the yams, that if you eat them, you can you can win races. So diet, obviously. I'm missing the key. Oh, here it is. This is what I'm looking for. Oh, yes, of course. It's telomere. If you're not familiar with what is telomere, basically your genes unravel at the tips, right? And there's a chemical called telomerase, which actually helps sort of tighten them back up again. So you're kind of like a Toyota or a vehicle that slowly parts are coming loose, right? They need to be tightened back up. So the telomerase, like they're trying to figure out how to keep your genes from unraveling. I mean, if you think about it, cells like to divide, right? And if they can't do that correctly, there's problems. So a lot of this stuff has to do with allowing the cells to live forever, so to speak. In other words, create an environment where cells don't get tired, cells don't get munged up with garbage and toxins. So all of these things can hopefully delay inflammation, delay disease, delay genetic damage. Well, there's a big list dealing with senescence, right? This sort of the aging of cells. So I thought, let's say we've been yakking for 10. Let's drop in now and do something about this, right? Because I could just talk about it, but we can also activate this stuff, because everything's voice activated, right? I mean, if you clap your hands, certain lights come on. You know, if you talk to Siri, woohoo! I've been talking to ChatGPT lately. You can just like declare to the universe certain things in the right moment, in the right places, and things happen. Matter of fact, I've been told that if you go outside in China, in certain cities, and you just look up in the air and say Uber, there's so many cameras that you'll have an Uber there in minutes. The surveillance state, right? But that's just an example of like the power of word. So if you didn't say anything ever, you could be like Meher Baba, right? You could radiate out in a different kind of way. But let's just say the power of our language is super powerful for healing us. And so when we hear certain things, it activates, right? The ears are designed at birth to be the ultimate sense. So let's get younger. All right, let's just like run some software here, some healing software to just feel younger by the time we're done. So we're breathing through the nose, we're pranifying the brain, we're expanding the fields, we're feeling the earth, we're slowing it all down, relaxing brain. We want the blood to spiral clockwise. You want your limbs to de-densify and clear out the garbage. You want to clear any inflammation in their body that's creating inefficiency and just burning you up unnecessarily. You want to bless mother and father, bless their lineages, grandparents, great-grandparents, all these beings that have made up our body with their thoughts, words, and deeds. We're thinking beautiful thoughts about them. We ensure that our genetics are less tangled and creating strange mutations, which is another thing they're studying, is how genes mutate. So in a sense, we're all studying how we mutate within the context of all of this intelligence and information and crisis potentials and Om Namah Shivaya. So we're breathing. Feeling younger as a kind of rejuvenation thought, right? You could just say, I'm getting younger. And you might think, well, what's that going to do? Well, it would do what anything does when you say it, right? You can get 300 people to exit a theater real fast if you if you scream fire. So, power of the voice, right? So, we're rewriting the story. Hopefully we're doing that all the time, right? Upgrading it, recalibrating it, clearing out the negative. It's like the sunshine effect of positive energy, sort of broadening and building, expanding. And each time we do that, we create more neutral positive, which clears a negative charge, which I would say is the #1 cause of disease, right? I mean, because that includes trauma, that includes horrible people in your life, it includes, mercury we eat and imbibe, all the stuff that wants to kill us, right? There's technologies to clear it out of your body, lighten up the mind, etc. So we're doing that as we speak. Breathing through the nose. Strengthening the vitamin B3, which is a precursor to the NAD and the NMN and all these amazing molecules that assist the cells in cleaning up their act. It's like we're kind of doing yogic autophagy, right? Cellular cleansing. There's 100 trillion of them, and most of them are not even human, meaning the mitochondria. A lot of this stuff is bacteria and all kinds of creatures that do the work, right, in our body. They've signed a lease, right? They're working with us. Something like 36 trillion cells are not us, right? 30 trillion are us. Maybe you could say there's more not us than us. So we're just breathing into our wondrous agricultural farm, the microbiome of every organ and gland. It's like there's something powerful about beholding it all. Otherwise, we're running around doing stuff. But if we sit back, it's like the back of the movie theater, noticing all your organs and glands, talking to them, thanking them. We are a kind of biology experiment. Maybe beings from other galaxies are doing it, but we're doing it, right? We're experimenting with our chemistry, our thoughts. And hopefully it's not just an experiment, right? It's guided by higher intelligence, by invisible beings, by our ancestral wisdom, by your deep self. Woohoo! So the gratitude that keeps it all together, the water element itself. If we vibrate at 7.4 pH, at least as much of an equilibrated balance as possible, negative and positive electric pressure come to balance. From this point of view, health is realization. So when we realize all these things, good feeling, the best healer of them all. Your own goodness, the Dharma that clears the karma, right? The sort of dharmic karmic cleanse of righteousness, intelligence, giving and helping people releases oxytocin and dopamine, right? I think it's called helper's high. I feel it every time I beam out, right? Like, there's a selfish motive. Meaning, hey, if that's selfish, it's the best selfishness there is, right? Says the Dalai Lama, essentially. Wise selfishness. Doing unto yourself the goodness. Because otherwise, waiting for someone to come and rescue us is probably not going to work, right? I mean, we need the advice, but right, it's the self-healing project. So here we are. Let's just meditate. Let's just let all this information integrate and calibrate as we meditate. Oh, healing's it there. Breathing through the nose, relaxing brain. Long exhalations are especially good for hypoventilation. Breathing in and holding. Slow release. Holding. Inhaling. Holding. Slow release. That may be the most important spiritual exercise for your body. Just that beautiful breath.
Yeah.
Incoming. Here comes Deanna. We've got 2 more minutes. Arriving with nutrients and groceries and goodies. So as we end here, it's like bring this meditation up to the surface. So that you stay in this, so the observation deck, right? Observing it all happening, rather than being all caught up in the rush. And that brings peace, right? Just doing the breathing balances the experience. Just one last thought. I was at this concert last night, and the drummer was particularly talented. This lady from England, particularly talented tabla player, and she did this whole advanced rela with the other drummer and the keyboardist, and it was this unbelievable thing. And right as it hit this crescendo, it hits this perfect final note, and she just went. It was just sort of like, that's a good thing to do, right? It's like, there it is. Whatever's going on, whatever healing crisis you're going through, it's sort of like a barrage of fast-moving drumming, and then drop into the wondrous space of the deep self. Namaste, everyone. See you next time, Thursday.